finds out that it's really his job to protect you from all enemies, both foreign and domestic, and we come to grips with this one principle, that the greatest threat to God-given constitutional American liberty is our own federal government. And that if we're going to keep this peaceful, then the sheriff must be on board. And when we have the sheriff that really understands that principle and becomes a constitutional sheriff, then you get your freedom back tomorrow. If he joins that principle today, you get your freedom back tomorrow. And wouldn't it be wonderful if every sheriff in this country stands up and takes some preemptive action against Washington, D.C., and anybody knows, with all the czars and all the people that are in Washington, D.C., that are all anti-gun and all anti-Second Amendment and all anti-Constitution, you know what's coming, and that's more gun control. And so why would the sheriffs of Mississippi and Texas and all along the Bible Belt stand by and watch as citizens are disarmed in this country? It hasn't happened, has it? New Orleans. Of course it has. And you think they're not going to try it again? And so why would the sheriffs all sign a letter letting the federal government know and CC it to the White House and to Congress and to the Justice Department and say, just in case any of the rumors are true that we're seeing on the internet, and just in case you're considering getting rid of ammunition or putting serial numbers on ammunition or disarming or in any way, shape, manner, or form going to expand gun control, it will not happen in these following counties. And every sheriff who believes in freedom and believes in the Second Amendment signs that and lets them know there will be absolutely no more gun control in these following counties. That's certainly one way we can stand for freedom. And now I want, and Sheriff McGee has never heard this, and I don't think a lot of you have either. I've written several books, and another one that I did not have here tonight, you can get on the website also, is The Proper Role of Law Enforcement. And in that book, it details my conversion to the Constitution. I started out in law enforcement, I think, probably just like everybody else. I just wanted an exciting career. I wasn't worried about the Constitution or my oath of office. In fact, I didn't even really know I took an oath of office. It was just part of a ceremony after graduation of the police academy. My wife pinned the badge on me after I graduated from the academy. We swore this oath, but I just thought, it was a little ceremony, a little fun thing you do, Because not one time in my law enforcement career, at the beginning anyway, until I became sheriff, did anyone ever talk about the oath of office, the Constitution, or anything else in law enforcement, and yet we swore an oath to uphold and defend the Constitution. And yet, you know what? 99% of cops and everybody in law enforcement have never even read it. And that's what I was. And so, what happened to me that I became a constitutional cop, that I became a constitutional sheriff, that I was even worried about the oath of office? And now we hear this organization going across the country that I've been a part of and was privileged to be at the kickoff ceremony at Lexington Concord, where the first shot was fired in the Revolutionary War. The first 8 casualties of the Continental Army, or the militia, the American militia, were killed at Lexington Concord in 1775 or 4? Probably 4. And it was a very spiritual experience, and I was grateful to be part of Oath Keepers. And I endorsed them wholeheartedly. And it was an easy marriage because I've been preaching about the oath of office since 1980, in some way, shape, manner, or form. Well, since about 84, I should say, 83 or 84. And that's how long it's been. And so it was an easy marriage between me and Oath Keepers. And what a great group. Now we're asking people in law enforcement and the military never use the Nuremberg defense of just following orders. We will not just follow orders. We will stand firm in our word that we gave solemnly and sacredly to uphold and defend, preserve, and protect the United States Constitution. an undercover narcotics officer. And this was a real traumatic time for me. I never used illegal drugs. I think I tasted beer 3 or 4 times in my entire life. Never smoked, never did drugs, never smoked marijuana growing up. I was involved in sports and music, and, you know, kind of like to chase girls around a little bit in high school, and that was about it. That was it. You know, that was the extent of it. And so now I'm asked to go undercover, and I've got to know how to roll joints and smoke pot and act like I like it, and it's part of my life. And I've got to drink beer, and oh my gosh, I hated that stuff. And I'm sitting there in a bar trying to act like I'm really enjoying myself, and I'm trying to gag down a beer. I finally found one that I could get down a little bit easier, and I'm not doing a commercial because I still ate them all, but it was hams. Hams went down the easiest, where I didn't have to gag, you know. Oh my gosh, but, you know, it was a horrible time for me and my wife, and probably worse for my wife, because there were times, this was back in 1982, we didn't have cell phones. You know how big a cell phone was in 1982? It was bigger than a briefcase. You know, you had to carry this big old suitcase around and talk to friends on cell phone. And so my wife, all she would ever hear from me sometimes is 3 or 4 days at a time. She wouldn't hear from me at all. And I'd have to try to sneak home at night so I could see my wife and 3 kids from my cockroach-infested apartment. But my wife, all she would know is that I was out there with drug dealers, ex-cons, and drug addicts. And she would not hear from me for days and days at a time. And it was really hard on us, really hard on us. But that's when I started to question some things that I think we need to be in law enforcement, honest enough that, yes, our country's off track. And law enforcement is part of that. We own part of that. We're part of the problem. We can't say, oh yeah, America's really off track. It's just those guys in the judicial branch and those guys in the legislative branch, because whatever they tell me to do, I will do. Now, do I work for the judicial branch? Does your sheriff work for the judicial branch? Absolutely not. And I know there were times that I did it myself, that I told judges, no, I'm not going to do that. And there were times, you know what, we're going to have to say the same thing to our legislatures. Are you guys crazy? I'm not going to enforce that. That's what we did on the Brady bill. We told the legislature to hang it in their ear. We're not going to do it. You know, and we didn't. And so some sheriffs actually didn't even supposed to keep our oath of office. And that's what all this is. Are we supposed to keep our word? Well, you don't ask somebody to do that. You just do it. It's back to this character thing Sheriff Mack was talking about. And so after my undercover assignment, I pretty much finished up the court cases on all that. And remember, I'm questioning now what we're doing in law enforcement. But I'm back on patrol for a little bit, and I'm at 300 South, 600 West, just south of the intersection facing north, and it's a 4-way stop right next to an elementary school. And it's a beautiful time of year. This is Utah, and in fall, it is beautiful, and it was. And it was about 5 or 6 in the evening. And I'm filling out my daily activity report, and this is before we were computerized in law enforcement. We have to keep track of everything we're doing. And I'm making my little slash marks about how many tickets I've written that day. And I wrote a lot of tickets, and man, oh man, I had to do a lot of repenting for that. Most tickets are not moral. They're not. And what I call ticket writing now, especially radar tickets and photo radar tickets that we have all over the freeways in Arizona, what a catastrophe. What an absolute absurdity. And this is absolutely mine. This is a Sheriff Mackism. Radar tickets and all the wholesale distribution of tickets across the country is taxation through citation. And that's all it is. It's revenue generation, and the county and city fathers and state people want to raise revenue. And that's all it is. And there's not a cop in this country that should be one of their little tax collectors, red coat soldiers for them. None of them. Yeah.